This is Dr. Gail Brenner. This audio includes a guided meditation and short talk that I gave at a meeting of Living in Truth on September 13th, 2016. I hope you enjoy it. For more information, please visit my website at gailbrenner.com. That's GailBrenner.com. So I always like to start with just a couple of deep breaths, just to kind of enervate the mindfulness, to bring attention to the breath. So these are conscious breaths. And maybe even a little deeper than your normal breath. And there's a sense in which that's a signal, so we just come here. And here we are alive and breathing. So there's a simple kind of hello, a simple introduction that marks this time of being here and together and being present. So just for now, see if you can be who you truly are. You are not anything that your thoughts in your mind tell you that you are. You are not defined by your emotions. You are not the result of your life story, no matter what that story is. You're not the critical voice in your head. You're not the worrier. And you're not the one who thinks he's damaged. There's an ancient practice in India. It's called neti neti, not this, not that. So those are all the things that we're not. Not your thoughts, not the inner voices in your head, not your emotions, not your story, not your gender, not your nationality. I saw a commercial for Prius on TV, and the guy goes, "This Prius is my identity." So you're not your Prius. Or anything else you define yourself by. Neti neti, not this. So see what else comes to mind about who you think you are. And not this, and not that. And if we throw all of that away, what we think we are, what we define ourselves as, our successes, our failures, our relationships, the need to control, the need to protect, the fears. So then the question is, what's left? if you throw out all the mind-made structures about who you think you are, what remains? And the answer is not nothing. There's no thing, but there's something here that's very alive. So right now and just for now, let yourself be who you are for real. You don't need to strive for anything, or go anywhere, or make yourself into anything. You're not even the body. You're here as this aliveness that animates the body. You're what's prior to the body and the mind and the life story. You're timeless. You're not located anywhere, yet you're everywhere. You are the luminous source of life itself. Transparent, infinitely loving, incapable of resisting anything. Your true nature is the deepest peace, beyond imagination. So even though it might feel like you're located here, you're here in this room, sitting in a seat, bring your attention to the space behind your eyes. Not a physical structure, but just the space behind what you might think of as your eyes. And notice that that space expands way beyond what you think of as your head. In fact, with your eyes closed, you have no evidence that you actually have a head. Which puts the existence of the head into question. If we close our eyes and it disappears, what is that? So release into the space behind the eyes, and then behind the head, and back to the edges of the room, and then beyond that. And be the space in front of the eyes, beyond the face, to the outer edges of the room, and out beyond. So being who you are, you're not in conflict with anything. So what that means is that we don't fight any of our experience. And it's not that we don't, it's that this consciousness that is who we are, this reality, by its nature, it doesn't fight any thought or feeling or anything that arises. It says over and over, oh this, oh this, oh this. It's already welcomed before it even finishes making its appearance. It's this welcoming presence that's so naturally welcoming. You don't have to do anything to make this welcoming or this non-resistance happen. You just have the opportunity to realize that this is the case. This loving welcoming. It is the fact of who you are always, no matter what's happening in your daily life. Nothing is separate from this presence. It's impossible. Because whatever is here, the root of it is this presence. Resistance comes into being when we believe ourselves to be separate, when we start believing our thoughts. We evaluate, we judge, we interpret, we misinterpret, we divide things into this and that. That's the beginning of resistance and the beginning of trouble or suffering. But this awareness that is the truth of who you are is non-divided. It's all-encompassing. So always, in every moment, everything is being embraced by this love. We can decide whether to see that or continue to be tricked into thinking that we're separate. So when the mind starts to rev up again, it gets going and it starts to grip you, which it does. That happens. It's not a problem. It's an opportunity, always, to have this inkling somewhere that, wait a minute, something else is going on here. And what's going on is the deepest acceptance. So deep the mind can't even begin to understand it. It's this deep, full, resonant yes to everything. and resting here, problems dissolve. So in a moment, I'll invite you to open your eyes. And whether your mind starts to think, interpret, and make sense of what's going on or not, know that what is always the case is that this awareness is who you are. And it's always here for your return. So just experiment as you begin to open your eyes. Just have your gaze be soft. Stay centered within. Enjoy what you see. So I was writing about self-compassion today, and I'm writing about how to be self-compassionate, but I'm also very aware that it's a natural aspect of our true nature. We're not by our nature harsh and divisive and critical. That critical, is this bothering you? You can move it. Okay. This critical inner voice, it's not our true nature. It comes, and we all probably know that voice. I know I do. But we don't have to. When we think of ourselves as separate and people with problems, and we identify with our emotions and all of that, we need to learn how to be compassionate with ourselves because we're buying into the mind. But when we've relaxed that identification with the mind and the identities that it tells us that we are, we don't have to learn to be compassionate. It's this natural arising that happens. It's who we are. It's part of that background source of all of life. But it's useful to learn to be self-compassionate, and it means bringing kindness to our experience, bringing patience to ourselves. I often hear like, "Oh, I thought I've dealt with that already," or, I did what you said, I've already, addressed this feeling. And then here it is again. And that's what these things do, these conditioned patterns and habits that we have, these habitual ways of being, they come back. That's what they do. So our job, and when I say our job, I mean the job as this that identifies as this vast awareness, is to say yes, to say okay, to say welcome, to say come home, you also. You're also welcomed. Everything is welcomed. Not this harsh kind of separating and judging our experience, because we're very good at creating a war with ourselves, at being at war with ourselves. But the invitation is always to rest as who we are, and then what's here naturally is just here, and it's not a problem. That means shame, or I don't know, things you've done that you think you made a mistake. Maybe you've hurt someone. Things happen to people. Maybe something has happened in your life that you regret. And I'd say maybe, probably. That's how we live. But can the reactions to all of that, can the judging end so that we can begin to heal and heal deeply, so that we can know and understand and deeply live who we are? There's been some research done on self-compassion, and people who are self-compassionate are more motivated to get out there and do things they want to do, happier, less stressed, less depressed. These are things you might imagine. So it's a good thing to be self-compassionate. Compassion, the word compassion means literally to suffer with. So it doesn't really have that connotation anymore, but it's true empathy. It's like, oh, you're suffering and I'm here with you. I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to accept you deeply. I'm not going to abandon you in your suffering. And it could be someone else, but it could also be ourselves. How often do we abandon ourselves in our suffering? We have these young feelings that come up, and they're from our childhoods. They're unresolved, and we push them away, or we don't want them to be there, or we act out in the world and do everything we can possibly think of to avoid. We're not being compassionate with that feeling. We're not walking with ourselves, with our own experience. And that's what self-compassion is, to be with what's here, naturally, letting that just arise and fall, doing nothing with it, and just letting things be. There's a practical aspect to self-compassion, which is self-care, which is literally, and when I work with people, I'm always asking, what are you doing to take care of yourself? And there's a lot of not taking care of ourselves, of not preparing for sleep and then having sleep problems, of running ourselves ragged when we know we need to rest, of not eating well, not doing a little bit of exercise, and I don't mean things as shoulds, things we should do, but they're things that enrich us and enliven us and help us to take good care of our bodies. And it's good to do those things. And if we're not, it's a sign that we've distanced from ourselves. We're not walking with ourselves anymore. There's been some space. We're out there trying and manipulating and strategizing and making things happen. And we're doing that at the expense of this beautiful grounding within that's possible. Some people might have experience with what's called the disease to please. We need to please other people at all costs. And that comes from a sense of inner lack here. If we felt full here, we wouldn't need to please or need to get approval or attention or positive feedback. So that running ourselves until we're on empty, pleasing other people so that we get something from them or we feel good about ourselves, that's an abandonment of ourselves, really. An abandonment of that sense of lack or that hole that we feel inside. That's what needs our attention, not the, strategizing to get things from other people. So anything about that, being compassionate to yourself or not being compassionate to yourself, not walking with yourself, how do you do that? And then what is it like to walk with yourself, to be with yourself, to have your attention welcoming whatever is here.